Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to stop the striving and discover your true abundance, then do we have It's Not Your Money show for you. Today I'll be talking with Tosha Silver, the best-selling author of Outrageous Openness, Change Me Prayers, The Wild Offering Oracle, and a brilliant new book that's a breath of fresh air in the Iditarod of manifesting, It's Not Your Money. Gotcha. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about how to live fully from divine abundance. That, plus we'll talk about her Baba and green cars, MacBooks and water, smashing plates and coconuts, existential dread and dirty dishes, what on earth is a schnorrer, and what in the world a 400-pound manifesting monkey has to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, Tosha. Are you ready to shine?
Thanks, Michael. It's so nice to be here.
Well,
Happy to be with you.
It's so great to have you here again, and a mighty woohoo! Before we dive right into things, what was life like in your earliest years, and what does impending doom have to do with anything?
Oh, you must have read the opening of the book. I was talking in the introduction to the book about just growing up with that constant companion of fear all the time. And that for some of us, it doesn't have to do with whether you're growing up in extreme poverty or whether you're growing up middle class like I was. The fear of loss was incessant. And I was writing in the book that I don't know if that's because my grandparents had been uh, connected to the Holocaust in Europe, but I grew up with that constant sense of impending doom. And I partly wrote the book because back in my 20s, when I was messing around in the manifesting world, no amount of focusing on life that way got rid of that sense of doom. It was only when I started to genuinely open up to the divine and to the things I write about in the book about how to learn to be abundance as opposed to chase it, that the fear started to leave. So
It's interesting. Both you and I grew up in middle-class Jewish households, both a couple generations post-World War II. And I know until recently, my mom, and they live in New England, would, bless her heart, would still hide in the other room during a Patriots playoff game because she knew if she watched it, they were going to fail. And she would say it's the law of attraction flipped in reverse. Don't say that. If you say something positive, don't say that. Take it back for
right,
fear the piano is coming on our heads.
right, right, absolutely.
So just giving a little bit of background on your story, this terror of not enough kind of did you in by the age of 30, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I write about it in the first book, in Outrageous Openness, that I had failure of my endocrine system, and I was pretty much in bed for close to 3 years just on what fear and anxiety had done to my nervous system. And then, as often happens to a lot of people, once you hit bottom, you have to learn a new way to be. And as I say, the new way to be had nothing to do with learning how to chase things in the new age fashion. That brought momentarily a sense of safety that quickly was followed by, what if I lose it? Now that I've manifested, what if it's gone? And what I've realized, and this is what the book is really a depiction of, is that no matter what you are supposedly trying to manifest, when you're still in the consciousness that you are the ego in control of everything and that everything is my, because that's a big part of the book, is the release of the my, then the safety and the freedom doesn't begin to come until offering actually begins. And otherwise, that sense of fear of loss pretty much follows a lot of people, as
There's
you
a
know.
there's a piece of land that we're very hopeful and hopeful of becoming the caretakers of here where we live in Colorado, and we've heard there's other people interested in the land. We could have to move very fast to get this land. We went out and did a ceremony a couple days ago with this giant tree that's on the property, and we said, "It's yours. if you want us to be the caretakers of this land, let the path open before us. If not, that's okay. We give ourselves to you. And by you, we're not specifically talking tree. It's all universe. It's all God. We're saying, you drive. And so like today, we're like, do we go to the bank? Do we do this? We're just going to take our time. Let the path unfold.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, this is the way so many indigenous cultures have lived forever until the insanity of a testosterone driven alpha culture that's insane like ours
Yeah.
comes in and says everything has to be chased, everything has to be gotten. Otherwise, it's exactly what you described. You make the offering to eternity, and eternity shows you. So, yeah.
So who was Florence Scovel Shinn? What'd you learn from her writing?
Well, she influenced me a lot when I was writing the first book, Outrageous Openness, many years ago, because she had a lot of great ideas. But one of them, she was a metaphysician who was living in New York back in the 1930s and 40s, I believe. But one of her main ideas was divine source. Yeah. And that idea is that no person, place, or thing is actually your salvation. The divine is your salvation. And there's a kind of eternal holding of everything under divine source. And if you begin to learn how to tune into divine source, then you don't have to go chase that piece of land like you're describing. You can do what you did. You can say, well, the right land for us is already selected. We'll be guided to what's right for us. We don't have to keep hammering the universe saying, I need it to go this way, I need it to go that way. And so Florence Scovel Shinn was my introduction to those ideas.
I love it. And it's interesting when you say hammering the universe, because we get hammered back. It's very interesting. One of the challenges in watching The Secret or anything law of attraction related is it implies that thoughts are causative to the extent that I better be careful I don't screw things up by having that we have that much power over our existence, where the truth is we don't, do we?
Well, the way I would see it, this isn't a culture that's really understanding of paradox very much.
No.
And so it's a very black and white thinking culture. Cultures that understand paradox know two things can be true at the same time, right? That are diametrically opposed. So part of the story, I would say, is of course we influence things to some extent through our thinking. If somebody is always filled with bitterness and resentment and hatred, they will absolutely start to draw to themselves similar vibrations. So there's a piece of the law of attraction that to me, of course, is true. However, there's the whole other side of the equation, which I write about a lot in the book with Prarabdha karma, with the idea that there's a curriculum for every soul in a given lifetime that it's here to learn. So if you're here to learn as an old soul, if you're here to learn detachment, or if you're here to learn patience, or if you're here to learn acceptance, then just hammering the universe with your agendas of all the things that you're hoping to manifest mean nothing, because the universe can be like, well, that's nice that you want that, but actually you're here to learn how to receive, or you're here to learn how to let go.
There's a prayer that I like to say, or tack on to the end of just about every prayer, for my highest good and the highest good of all, or something better. In other words, I don't pretend to have the answer. If $1 million falling out of the sky, and that means, and we're not going to talk about how we can get to our most abundant place, but if $1 million is supposed to fall from the sky, great. If it's another experience that is supposed to enrich my life in some way, in some other way, great.
Right. And I think it's partly the difference between focusing on holding the vibration of abundance as opposed to chasing abundance. And a tremendous amount of law of attraction has to do with chasing things as opposed to being those things. So, yeah.
What does it mean to you to hold the vibration of abundance?
That you begin, one, to rest in divine source, and and two, that you begin to trust, because of your resting in divine source, that what needs to come for the highest expression of your soul in a given incarnation will occur, because you're allowing that divine source to guide the way. And by the way, I should say, because not everybody's read the book like you have, these aren't airy fairy ideas. The book is a systematic 8-week program for actually how to learn to do this, because it flies in the face not only of what the culture says about abundance, but also of what a lot of the new age world says about abundance. So it takes some practice.
So we're going to go through a few of the weeks. We're not going to go through all of the weeks because people get a little bit overwhelmed in 30 or 40
Yeah,
minutes here.
yeah.
But what is or what is the abridged version, I guess, of an abundance change me prayer, or the importance of that?
Okay, so there's this prayer that's at the start of the book that is what you do in one of the early weeks. And it's basically a prayer about deserving to receive and knowing your own worthiness. And the reason that, well, I should say this, that the way the book came to be was because I did a course called It's Not Your Money. And the changes that were happening in that course to people, there were like hundreds of letters that still haven't stopped to this day,
Right.
because so many people that took it didn't know that they deserved to receive, and they didn't know their own worthiness. So they were busy trying to get this and get that, but the entire time they were sending a message out that was like, who am I to receive? Why do I deserve that? So the prayer gets you re-anchored in divine source, and it sort of acts like, I'd say, a general medicine for what ails the soul. So it affects different people different ways.
So thank you. This is a really hard question. I'm surprised I'm going to ask it. Do we all deserve to receive?
Why not? I mean, if you think of yourself as holding the vibration of the divine as a spark on side of you, why would you not deserve to receive? I think that when you live in an insane culture,
Mhm.
we're taught some people deserve, some people don't, some people are being punished. But when you go down to the spiritual level of it, why wouldn't you?
Woohoo!
However, I think that's very different than saying, I deserve to receive $5 million next week. Or, it's the conditions that a certain kind of thinking from the ego puts it. I deserve to get any job that I want. I deserve to only make a living from everything I love. This is quite different. This
That
is saying I deserve to receive the highest plan.
Yeah, so it gets to a whole way of understanding our existence. If we understand our existence is this is all there is, then I want to get mine. Forget about getting yours. I want to get mine, and I want to get it now. If we understand that we're here as I would consider it a spiritual learning, an earth school, there's an infinite existence, an infinite amount of time, and you're here for an experience, then yes, you can ask for the richest experience, but the riches may not be in wealth. It may be in the learnings that you get, which is actually,
Absolutely.
it's so whatever comes, fantastic. What's the Chinese adage? I'll completely butcher it. You know, a guy and a boy, and the boy gets injured when working with the ox or something like that. The army comes to take him away, and he's
Right.
like, neither good nor bad. It
Right.
just is. And if you can relax into that, and that's what I believe you're talking about when you're saying surrender, give it to the divine, relax into you drive. If it's meant to be, I'll remove my blocks, but you help me with this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the thing is, if you go back to the idea of parabdha karma and the
Yes.
idea that a soul at any given life has a curriculum that it's learning, then different people are learning different things. And that gets very confusing if you start saying to somebody, the whole purpose of your life is to just manifest every passing wish that passes through your mind. But if you're saying you're actually here to know the highest expression according to the divine will, then, it's different for each person. And the book really goes through that. That's why, sure, maybe one person's meant to manifest $1 million in a lifetime, and for somebody else that would be poisonous. because they've already had 10 lifetimes where they've had it, they've lost it, they feared it. This life, they need to learn to trust that they'll have enough. They don't need that million. It's different for everybody's karma.
So let's go
So,
from there. Let's talk about the 5 divine steps. And first one is to go through a change me prayer. The second one, I really love this one. What does it mean to clean your house? Start to clean your house. Number 2 is the step.
well, it's very convenient that Marie Kondo is out there doing her wonderful stuff
Absolutely.
because it's compatible with this, but this goes into a different dimension. It's basically that people go through their homes and they release what they no longer need, or I suppose what she would say is what sparks joy. But this is done from the perspective of the inner divine. And so you're really shown, there's all kinds of examples in the book. Like sometimes somebody has a bunch of things that are from an old marriage and they're still bonding out of anger to this stuff that say came out of the divorce, and the release of all that energy starts dramatically changing things in their life. Or they just have a lot of clutter, or they have a lot of objects that are representative of an old self that they left behind. So it's really been powerful to get all the letters of people writing and saying, just beginning to even clean out a few drawers. You're not doing it just as a mechanical action. You're doing it, offering it to the divine and saying, anything in this house that's blocking me from the greatest good, I'm ready to release.
I love that you say, because you say offering all your belongings to the divine, to love, saying, I'm ready to release it. And a step further, help me to see
Right,
what I get to release, because we can be
right,
walking around going, I don't know where to begin.
right, right. Well, the whole book, every step of it, I would say is a kind of um, like an antidote to the idea that we have to make everything happen. The whole book is about learning how to let this inner divine guide the actions. So, a good place to practice that is in the cleaning out of the home, because there were people that have said, I have never been able to clear my space out before. And by finally asking the divine, come in, show me where to start, show me what to let go of, they're finally able to do it. And then that same energy of cleaning out the home starts to be applied in other weeks to cleaning out the mind, cleaning out the old emotions. It all is the same process.
One of the things that I love about your book is a concept that I've been working with people on lately, which is living life as a living prayer, which means each step of the way. And I joke with people, I say, even in the bathroom, and there are actually Hebrew prayers for this, we can
Yeah, yeah,
offer up
yeah,
our biology, our what we're going to eat, what we're going to drink, what we're going to clean every step of the way. If
yeah.
we take it to prayer, it changes things, doesn't it?
Right, right, right. Well, and I think for many people, the war with the ego, how do I get myself to do that? How do I get myself to do this? It takes you back into a place. I'm sure you don't either. I don't consider this some external God that you're begging for. This is an internal force of love that you're simply installing as the actor. So it changes things.
Somebody you met called it the inner Lakshmi, I believe.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Step 3, stop complaining about money. And what is a schnorrer?
Well, a schnorrer is a word that my mom had all this great Yiddish that she was always throwing around, which I loved, and it's so colorful. And the schnorrer is somebody that likes to take and not necessarily give. And so, she'd always say it to us growing up, like, if we went to like a buffet and we just kept taking and taking and taking, and she'd be like, wait a minute, you want to have that balance of giving and receiving. So I use it in the book. If some people have to learn how to receive, some people have to learn how to, give more.
What does it mean to stop complaining about money?
Well, I think that addresses the side of, as I say, the paradox of a piece of this is about looking at your thoughts, and a piece of this is learning how to surrender. So the piece of it that to me is the mind is that if somebody is constantly saying, I'm always broke, I never have enough, I'm always cursed, those kind of thoughts constantly keep reiterating into the psyche what's going to come. Now, if you're only viewing it from that perspective, you get what you were just talking about before, where you get somebody saying, I'm creating everything, I can never have a bad thought. It's not about that. It's not about that, because especially once you know that you're not the one, you're not your thoughts anyway, it doesn't matter if occasionally a bad thought comes through. It's that if you systematically have limiting thoughts, systematically all day long, and that's your narrative, and not only that, but you've made your identity your narrative,
Yes.
then there's only so much that can shift because you're constantly telling yourself a story that isn't true. So that's all that they're doing on week 3 is shifting out of a story that's ready to change, but
It's
just
very
one piece of the story.
it's very hard if you're saying I'm broke, I'm bad with money, I'm broke, I'm bad with money. I don't even like saying that, but I'm broke, I'm bad with money. Then it is really hard for love to open up and say, let me show you that you're not. If you go,
Exactly.
I used to be broke and bad with
Right.
money, but now I'm open to a new story.
Right, right, right. And I think, the larger picture of all of this, because this isn't about manifesting more abundance. What this is actually about is learning how to let all of the money belong to the divine. Then over time, those thoughts just, they don't even interest you anymore because you start to become so curious. What's the divine going to do next? What's going to happen next? What's going to unfold next? And also, I have to say that part of that, it doesn't mean you don't get tested. There's a chapter in the book called You're Not Crazy, You're Being Tested. And there are losses that come. There are things that come. This isn't just like you get involved and, oh, suddenly money's falling out of the sky. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's a loss where you're having to let go and go, God is my source. I will trust that every loss is followed by another door opening. So I think it's really learning how to move in the flow of what's occurring.
I want to call it almost how to live in the paradox.
That's right.
Step 4, what can you tell us about making a statement of gratitude without going crazy on this?
I think it's just very straightforward that gratitude is really, really helpful for holding a state of receptivity to the good. And so, I know there's all these books out there about be grateful all day long and keep a journal. And I'm like, look, if it's a hard concept for some people, start with one thing right now. Like, I'm grateful that we're talking right now. Start with something just minimal, or for somebody listening, be grateful that you have shoes right now. Like, find the tiniest thing and just start there. And that's often all you need is just that seed. It starts to open receptivity, especially if you're on a bender and you're having a bad day and you're cursing this and you're cursing that. Just find one seed of gratitude.
Woohoo! Step 5. It's easy for me to receive. It's easy for me to receive. It's easy for me to receive. It's easy for me to receive.
Yeah, that's another very straightforward one. And I think that it is tied to that full abundance change me prayer that starts the book, but it is amazing how many people who have written in from this process say that they never in their lives before have felt worthy to receive. And it starts to get crystal clear once you're really telling yourself that it's easy and that it's okay. It's not selfish. In fact, if you're open to receiving, you can become much more effective and useful on the planet than if you're not.
Beautiful. Thank you. You had talked about earlier old souls and old soul abundance. What does that mean?
Well, the part of the book I'm writing about that, it goes back again to Parabdha karma. That here's my theory, is that as a soul is uh, older, I guess, in the sense of meaning. I'm not trying to say this as a competition here, but as a soul's been on the planet for more and more lives, it becomes less fixated on acquisition and more focused on awakening. And what actually starts to happen is that whatever needs to be acquired starts to happen almost organically through the awakening, as opposed to just, I'm going to have a life focused on getting this and getting that. So I think that there are people that find this book that they've written me hundreds of them, and they've said, I've never been able to manifest a damn thing, no matter how I tried.
Yeah.
Now I understand that it's because I'm an old soul. It hasn't been for me to just keep telling the universe over and over what I need it to bring. It's been for me to become receptive to what needs and wants to come. And I think that's old soul abundance. You're open to the higher plan as opposed to just constantly giving an agenda to the universe.
Thank you. And I'm so glad you said on this planet, because it helps with another paradox, which is if we're all infinite beings having a human existence, then how can some be old and some be young? But if we're talking about specifically on
Mm-hmm.
this planet,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
answers the paradox. There's
Mm-hmm.
something you talked about, and I think in our first interview together. I'd love it if you could address real briefly here. What's a God box?
Oh, so um, I've used it in a few of the books. It's just a box of any kind that the person uses. Some people make it fancy, and some people might make it a Kleenex box, but it's some kind of box that you offer to it whatever your current burdens are, whatever your fears are, your worries. And I've joked sometimes that it's like the opposite of a vision board, because it isn't that you're telling the universe how they have to resolve it or what needs to occur or you're going to have a tantrum. You're actually just taking the fear and the worries, you're writing them out, you're putting them in the box and offering it. And it's a way to embody that state so that when the fears return, as fears have a way of doing, because we're human, you can then say, oh, it's in the box. And over, people really can bring themselves back from the mind terrorizing them with that.
I like it. And speaking of giving it over to, what does tithing mean to you? And what do you mean by that?
Well, I included that in the book because I think people have different interpretations of what it means. I mean, the classic interpretation of it that you hear is like you offer 10%. And I think, if you take it from like the biblical end of it, it was what was given to the priests in the temple or whatever. And I'm not sure that that's the way that I see it anymore. I see it as it's like an encoded way of giving back to the universe. And so the way I write about it in the book is the way I write about many things, that you will be shown from the inside what your own relationship to something like tithing is. I'm not a big prescriptive person. So people have written me things like, well, it feels amazing to start giving back because it automatically anchors you in that sense of being abundance. If you keep saying, oh, I'll give one day when I'm a millionaire, but I don't have anything to give now, then you keep reinforcing that you're not an abundant person. So if you take that 10% or whatever you're guided to do and you give it, you're starting to embody that abundance. But also, I think people often know where they want to donate it. And so some people are giving it to the people that uplift them spiritually. Some people are giving it to animal shelters. Some people are giving it to battered women shelters. I think the soul knows. And that's the way I talk about it in the book.
I think it also comes, the word generosity comes to mind. You go out to a restaurant, instead of 15 or 20%, give 25, give even 30%.
Right.
Allow that energy to flow and be a gift to that person and a gift to the
Right.
universe.
Yeah, the book has a lot of that, of like giving in not exactly reckless ways, but in that way that this, I talk about the spanda in the book, and it's a Sanskrit word that is the inner leap like you feel that pull, like, oh, that waitress looks like that she's struggling, I'm going to leave 50% tip, and you just do it in the moment, and that's the inner God inside of you showing you. And that doesn't mean every time you go in a restaurant you have to do that, but when you know it's right, you stop censoring yourself. And it's funny how many people have written in and said they stopped being abundant like that many years ago because people told them they were being foolish, or they were being naive, or were being, reckless with money. And that suddenly, as a result of reading the book, they're like, I'm free to give the way my heart wants to give. You can tell, like, there's a generosity that's in so many people who aren't classically rich, but they have a way that they want to give that is such a relief to let yourself do. And often when you do it, the money returns in these completely crazy ways because the universe is supporting that.
Woohoo! I love doing that. And then you can even do it while sending a prayer. Actually, anytime you reach for money or reach for a card, you can be saying a prayer. May this go out to help everybody for the highest good, for the highest good of all.
Right.
Please, money, take care of whomever this goes to.
Yeah, I love that. The part about uh, when you're getting rid of objects,
Mhm.
that you're cleaning the house out. I know somebody wrote me who she cleaned out so much and she was so relieved because you really feel happy when you do it. And she took it all to a charity, and she did a prayer when she was offering it saying, let every one of these objects go to the people who need them most. And so, yeah.
So let's go from there to a giant pair of scissors, because one of the challenges that many of us were gifted with, in fact, I'll put challenges in quotes, is cords attaching us, like for instance, to our parents and our parents' relationship with money.
Right. Yeah, so that's another part of the book that I think is really important, is that a lot of times the ideas that we're holding about money or life in general don't even belong to us. A lot of those beliefs and ideas are coming from family members, ex-partners, current partners. Sometimes they're coming also out of our own past lives. And so included in the book is this part about releasing the cords to um, these beliefs. And, I think the main thing with cords that's really important is that nobody and nothing can cord you without your permission. So once you become aware of it, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing you have to feel like you've been, put in a trance. You really learned from the book how to take them off. And even if it takes a few times, you basically, no cord can stay on you unless you allow it. You learn how to keep it off.
Is the starting place to go to prayer? Give it to the divine? Say, I no
Well,
longer need this cord anymore?
yeah, but also the book is very practical. It's prayer, but it's many actions. Like when it's time to clean your house, you don't just say, "Dear God, I hope you bring a tornado and clean my house out." You go in there and you ask to be shown to get the objects out of the house, and you sometimes for some people it's a lot of work. And it's very similar to the chords. You go in and you cut them and you visualize the release of them. And sometimes there's a great story in the book of a woman who finally cut the cord to her ex-husband, and at the same time that she was cutting it, he took her picture down off of Facebook. And it was happening at the same moment, like the psychic rebalancing was all happening. Like, he felt, oh, it's time to let her go.
Beautiful. So let's talk about the cheapest therapy on the planet, breaking dishes.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. So, basically, I always thought it was a problem that, being the practical person I am, that there are a lot of spiritual groups that think anger is bad or you should never feel anger. Instead, what you get are people walking around either like robots, or they're terrified to have anger for the reason that you were saying, because they think they're going to manifest something by having human emotions, and then they just walk around with some bizarre smile on their face that's totally fake. So my theory is, no, you're in a human body. When emotions come up, they're calling for help. So if something like anger comes up, rather than spraying it on everybody else or turning it against yourself with, eating just whatever, eating 10 bowls of popcorn, there are tools in the book about dealing with emotions of all kind, and anger is one of them. So the breaking of the dishes is one of the tools for dealing with anger. And I'd say the anger section of the book goes into many other tools besides that, but it's one of them. Like it's all about honoring the emotions instead of pretending that they're going to manifest something bad and you can't feel them, because that really makes people crazy, as you probably know.
Oh, yeah. It's also known as volcano.
Yeah. And it's also known as spiritual bypassing, where, the emotions that need to be felt, that carry a message, have to be felt, because once they're felt, they can be released. As long as they're stockpiled in the body, they do all kinds of havoc.
Well, that really gets into this section of the book on the importance, and maybe you can share with us on befriending our inner child.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the book. And, you know, the well, there's so many things to say about that. One is that, there's, to me, everyone knows the theory about the inner child, that there's this young part of us that's often running the show. Like when somebody says, "Oh, I don't want the divine to take the lead," often the inner child is the one that's running the show. And so, when the book came out, the number of people that were writing and saying, you know, my kid has been running my finances forever. I've got credit card debt up the wazoo, and it's because I have no idea how to take care of the child. Because I don't particularly love the kid on the inside or give it any attention. It's constantly buying things just because that's its outlet to feel like it's okay. So a big part of the book is dealing with the emotions of the inner child, learning how to listen to it, honoring it, but not handing it the wheel. Those are two different things. And I'd say it's one of the biggest changes that people go through from those 8 weeks, is that they often end up with a very different relationship to the inner child. And it happens through the inner divine as opposed to the ego.
As you begin to change that relationship with your inner child, our shopping habits change, our spending habits, how we manage money, how we see money, and times where normally we maybe have a budget, the dreaded B word, and where it makes perfect sense that we wouldn't be spending on X, Y, or Z until our inner child gets involved and throws a tantrum and feels, I'm not worthy if I don't get this.
Right.
Once we befriend that, we can let some of that go.
Right. And also you can see how the different parts of the book all fit together, because the change me prayers about worthiness and all this other clearing about you deserve to receive and you deserve to open and relax into this. It affects the kid on the inside. And so as you're building a new relationship and that child does start to feel worthy, it has less need to go and buy 16 ice cream makers or whatever its latest idea is.
Awesome. So, what advice would you give Jessica? She always wants my wife and producer always wants me to ask a question for parents and their kids. What advice could you give to parents to help their kids with these concepts?
Go learn how to do it yourself, and you'll be embodying it for your kids. Because I think kids are unbelievably attuned, and they pick up everything, and they really know when we're full of crap and we're trying to get them to do something that we're not living ourselves at all. And so that's what I think, is that, in fact, people have written in even the idea of taking care of your own inner child. The extent to which that changes how people are treating their own external children is so dramatic, because if you're very critical and dismissive of your own inner child, it's hard to not treat your external kid that way at times. So that's what I think is it's an inside job, and the more that it shifts through these practices, the more it organically starts to shift with the outer children. It even starts to change with your cats and your dogs. It does.
Tell me more. I'm sure there's a cat hiding in the studio right now at present.
Well, I'm like a cat obsessed being, and I just found, there's nothing in these books that I haven't worked with myself. They're not concepts. They're things I had to learn for my own sanity. And I just found that the more I was attending to that child that felt neglected on the inside, the better I got with my cats. And that when I have cats that act out, I had a certain cat that was always jumping on the stove and just doing all kinds of things. I was able to start to treat that cat in the same sort of firm but loving way that I'm treating my own inner child now. And it really changed how the cat relates to me. They understand, animals and children understand if you're embodying what you're trying to get them to do, and they understand if you're not. So,
We have a big kitty, Sir Meowsers, and he's very finicky about his food choices. And he loves papers for shredding to let you know that he's very finicky about his food choices. And so when you take him off of the table or take him away from the paper or take him out of the room or whatever it is, but you do it from a place of love,
yeah,
he gets it. He won't
that's
necessarily not come back and shred, but he gets it.
that's it. You're right. They feel the vibration that you're doing it from, and that's what affects them more than the words.
Yeah. So where can people go to find your beautiful book and to find out more?
If they go to
Mm-hmm.
toshasilver.com, they'll see all the links to the book, although the book's on Amazon and everywhere else. And there's a good Audible version of the book
Yeah.
that a lot of people are listening to the audio of the book and then they're following along with it in a paper or Kindle copy because it's filled with so many prayers and meditations that it's helpful to have both.
Cool.
So those are all on there. And then they also can find a forum when the OO forum when they come to the website, which is a teaching community that I run, and there's a lot of people there that are using the book, and they're in the forum to help get support with the book.
Very, very cool. So, any last words of wisdom you want to share, Tosha, before we go into a meditation? This has been a lot of fun. I'm going to encourage everybody to go to the book, go to toshasilver.com, go get yourself a copy, give away a copy as a gift because it's really, you're talking about a way of living, but you're also talking, we joked about at the beginning, about a way of getting the 400-pound manifestation monkey off of our backs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say the core of that is the release of doership. It's like if you've got your whole list of everything that you've got to make happen, and if you don't, what are you doing wrong? Did you have a bad thought? Did you block it? Oh my God. That I gave readings and sessions with people for 30 years, and I listened to people suffering that way forever.
Yeah.
And it's very, very powerful to learn a different way to live that isn't that burden of doership. And the book really shows people how. And they can also find me on Instagram, where I'm spending way too much time these days because it's a lot of fun to do these concepts on Instagram. So,
Do you
and
make the
Facebook.
images yourself? I'm curious.
Occasionally, but also I have somebody who's really good with it.
Very cool. I used to say I'm not very good with social media, and Jessica would challenge me and say, "Well, actually, you have a YouTube channel that's social media that has really
Yeah,
taken off. So I'm not that good yet, but I'm working on it with figuring out images or giving it to my team and saying, run with this
yeah,
thing
yeah, yeah,
yet."
yeah.
So, any last words, and then let's just dive into a meditation here.
No, I mean, I have to say, I'm excited for people to try this for themselves. Don't take my word for it. Give it the 8 weeks because it needs the time to percolate in your system. And then write me and tell me what happened because the letters are amazing.
Cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. So, would you have time for a meditation? If you're driving down the road, if pull off. Don't do this while we're driving.
Sure. Why don't let me take people through this. I did it on the forum the other day and it was really powerful for people. So let me take you through a little bit of a letting go meditation.
Love it.
And if you can just focus on your breath for a moment. And just imagine that at your heart, there is this center of love that is the inner divine, eager to guide the way once it's actually invited. And imagine that there is this steering wheel in front of you, and perhaps, depending on what's going on in your life right now, you've been holding that steering wheel very, very hard. So you might imagine your hands on that wheel, and the knuckles might even be white from grasping on. And you're holding it. And that as you connect in your heart, you can feel the hands of this inner divine coming on to the wheel so that yours are still there, but you can let go so much more. You can hold the wheel so lightly because these guiding hands of the inner great self are on the wheel now. And it actually knows where you need to go, when you need to go, how you need to go. It has a plan that's so far beyond the fearful self leading the way. And just feel for a moment that you're there. Your hands are relaxed and loose on the wheel, and the inner divine is holding it in its clear guidance, knowing when to turn, when to go straight, when to stop, when to go. You're fully guided. It's safe to let go. And just feel the ease of that. Such a relief. Your own inner heart just guiding you through the inner divine. And then as you're ready, you can slowly come back out.
Woohoo!
That image is so strong, when you think of like those hands holding on, oh my God, what if I let go? And
It's interesting. We're getting to the day and age of self-driving cars.
yeah,
And our car will take the wheel from you. You have
yeah,
to hold on. You have to
yeah,
still do the work,
yeah,
but then it will guide you.
yeah, exactly. That's nice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tosha. This has been
Thank
so
you,
much fun today.
Michael. Totally. Thanks again. Really appreciated it.
Woohoo! So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get It's Not Your Money, and begin giving it to the divine. Sounds like I'm saying give the money to the divine. Well,
Well,
that
it already
too.
has it anyway.
Today, and shine bright.
Woohoo!
Thank you so much, Tosha.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, be well.
Take
Have a
care.
magical spring, summer, the works.
You too. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!